Okay, so now what we're going to do is first talk a little bit about setting things up. And before we even get into that, I guess what we should do is address what exactly you're seeing here, just so you can compare apples to apples. So for instance, if you're using just an iPad, you might use a different stylus. I'm going to be using the Apple Pencil. Before I got started with this, and this is the iPad Pro 128 gig. Before I worked up to this, I started with an iPad 2 and a regular like stylus with a bulbous kind of soft tip. I was able to get a lot done with that. I was even able to get a lot done with like finger painting methods, and I'll talk about those as well. So work up to this. If you don't have this, it doesn't mean you're not going to be able to learn and follow along. You're just not going to have maybe the efficiency and effectiveness that I get with this. But again, keep in mind that I was able to start with that previous setup, and maybe I'll even show you some of the artwork from that. I was still able to get some pretty nice art. It just takes some more zooming in and refinement and using layers to your advantage and stuff like that. So we'll talk about that. Also, what you're looking at here is I have a case on it. This is like a beetle case or something like that. It's just a protective case. You know, there's lots on the market. You can just research those. The beauty of these is that if you drop it, you're not so awfully worried about it. Worried about it. And a lot of them have like a kickstand on the back that lifts it up if you like that. So it gives you some different options there. Mainly the protection is what I wanted. And then as far as the cover, this is a Tech Armor satin finish anti-glare cover. You can see that when it's lit up, hopefully you can notice there, it's still very visually there. It doesn't, I mean, there's probably some degradation of overall quality, but it's very minute. It's very great, and it's just awesome for the grip that you get when working with this, and the fact that you get that added protection. Again, I'm very concerned with protecting a device like this. So with that, that tells you exactly what I'm using here. So the Apple Pencil, the case, the satin finish cover, and again the 128 gig, which is just going to give you more storage. Keep in mind though, a lot of times with these devices, you're not looking to store a huge amount of data on these. You want to get used to using things like Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever. I use Dropbox, whatever is most effective in your workflow. But you want to store things on a cloud, and it gives you more accessibility, and you're not worried too much about filling up the hard drive of this, for instance. So it is what it is. So now let's jump into it. So hopefully you've got Procreate installed, and you just tap the little icon there. You get a plethora of your images if you've worked on a bunch of stuff like I have. And we're going to start off by just creating a document. So that's going to be the plus icon in the top right. And I'm basically going to work through a lot of this with you like I'm working on a project file, but we'll obviously deviate and talk about some specific things as it pertains to your productivity and stuff like that. So basically, you can see I've got a lot of different options in here that I've already kind of saved presets. So you can create a custom size. You can go with one of these. You're going to have a bunch that are preset. I think the 4K was already in there. 4K is just like it sounds, 4K video, already set to that spec or whatever. I typically will work like 9 by 16 if I'm talking inches. 19 by 20 by 1080 is like regular HD video, I think, and I'll double that sometimes. So if you notice, my comic practice is actually that size but doubled because I just want that added. It's almost like a 4K or something to that scale. So essentially, if we go in there and we say, let's just start with this, or actually let's create a custom size just so you're aware of some of the other things. So if you want to create your own size, so you're getting in there and you're going to do like a book cover or whatever it is you're going to do. What's neat about this is as you generate the file, it also tells you the amount of layers, which can be very important if you need a set amount of layers to be functional. I generally don't work with anywhere near 128 layers, but also this file size is pretty small for what I generally will work within. So you can change your color mode, your DPI, you can title it right there. Whatever you prefer to work in, you can do inches or pixels. Those are the two that I use. And let's say we're going to do inches here, and we'll just do, I'll do like a comic book page size, which I typically work at for my comic production. Width will go 11, height 17, and just like that, we can type it right here, comic panel, something like that. And you see we got 11 by 17, we got our DPI. I generally will work at 300 DPI at that size. You can go to 600 or something higher, but you want to keep in mind, like, again, you can see it jump down the maximum layers to 27. That's probably about right. That's a pretty good size file right there. So with that, I would just hit create. And just like that, we've got our document. I'm going to get into things like pinch controls and gesture controls and things, but I want to let you know that I leave my palm rejection disabled with this particular device. Now, if you or this particular stylus. Now, if you're using a different stylus, you may want palm rejection more. This actually does pretty well by itself in conjunction with the iPad Pro, so I don't need to worry too much about palm rejection. So it gives me this ability to pinch and zoom, which allows me to work very quickly. So with that, that gives you the basic overall starting point of creating a document. And let's go ahead and jump into some of the other settings. With that, let's go ahead and move on to the next lesson.